Hello, everybody.
What's
Who
going
wants to
on,
say
guys?
something?
I don't know. Well, guys, we have Donald Trump here tonight. Right there. A little bit of
No.
the orange. The orange. It's the orange. Orange man, bad.
I got this. Shut up. I'm taking.
We got
right,
pink man
I'll
and we got
take one for
orange
the
man.
team.
Yeah,
Pink man.
take it for the team. Can't you adjust your color?
I am.
Your hue, your saturation.
He okay to tell you guys the truth. He but right before we went live, he's like, "Do I look orange?" I said, "Yeah, leave it." He was trying to adjust his light. I said, "No, you have to leave it, just so I can say orange man bad."
Okay, all right. So you said it.
Yeah.
So I bought this new light.
It's bright.
It's friggin' bright, man. There you go.
Oh, see, it's bright.
Now you look Caucasian. You're good.
So that's a light that I got because I was watching the Overland show with Jason, Ham Radio 2.0, and Shane, and I forget who else. And I wanted a light that I can not only, as I get to the tail end of sitting here in a tent, but for out on POTA, because sometimes like I don't want to light up the place and attract the mosquitoes, but I still want to have a little scene lighting, a little mood lighting for POTA. As well as for other activities. Who knows? Barbecues at night, whatever. What? What did someone say? Thank you, John. Yes, thank you, John.
Also, thank you, Radioactive Ryan, for 5 months membership.
Ooh.
Oh, Ryan, thank you, man.
Listen, I'm only on my wife. My wife called me today at work. She's like, our internet sucks. She like did a speed test. It was like 2 megabytes down, 0 up.
Wow.
I was like, well, that's great. Call them. So it's only because my wife called tech support that I'm here tonight. So happy to be here.
Well, did you pay the bill?
Of course I did.
All right then.
So how's you guys been? How's your week been, guys? Like I tell you, it feels like forever. At the same time, it feels like nothing happens. I don't know what your week is like, but mine is the same old, same old. And what's going on with you, Izzo?
I had yesterday and today off.
Nice.
Couldn't cut the grass. We've had so much rain here in Connecticut, and I know April showers brings May flowers brings pilgrims. I get all that. The flowers are blooming all over the house. The daffodils, some special something pretty pink stuff and purple stuff. It all looks nice, but the grass was growing, and I think everybody in the neighborhood was getting crazy like me. But they did their lawns on Saturdays and Sunday. So Monday I had this opportunity because we finally had some sunshine. I was going crazy from just being, I don't know, it was like crappy weather. I just could not kick whatever I had. Do you know once I got the grass cut and had a cigar, I was happy. It was amazing. It's the little things in life. I've been thinking about going to Antarctica, but I don't know if I'm going to make it because your first year you go. Well, I'll save that for later. That's a whole. I've been playing some POTA, hunting only. I wanted to go out today again. Pouring rain came in and it just got kind of crazy. But some of the comments I've seen on Twitter, I'm starting to agree with. I think I understand. Cycle 25, yeah, rah rah rah. We're going to start having more of these solar flares, more of these storms, which are going to make the bands useless. I think I'd rather go back to where we had like 0 sunspots and less storms, and just because like today I'm struggling to work a guy in Maryland on 40 meters from Connecticut on the short path. A couple of years ago that was nothing. That was 5 watts in a wet noodle. Now I can't even. It's hard. I'm trying to work Carrie KB3 WAV. James was in Ham Radio Adventure Guy was in Ohio today. I couldn't even work James. That's how pathetic. It was like, yes, Ed, I am on my rant. This is what grinds my gears, that we can't control it. We just can't control what we want and I'm sure every ham radio operator, listen, you guys in the chat, you're all laughing at me. Go ahead. You have a good laugh, but you know you're the same as me. Because when you play radio, you want to play radio when and how you want to play radio. It doesn't work that way. This is science, right? So don't ask me how my day was. Don't ask me how my day. Hey, I'm smoking the My Father's cigar. This is called the Judge. Mr. Jose Pepin Garcia makes these. They're good. If you like a nice Nicaraguan cigar, close to full body. I really like these cigars. They're very consistent. That they're always very good. But I never had a bad one that took off and ran with like a sidewinder. Problems with the smoke. These have always been good cigars. So thank you, Mr. Garcia. I really like the whole product line, but the Judge is a nice one. So
nice. So you've been doing mostly hunting. So I've turned on my radio a couple times, and I think I still have to fix my antennas because obviously they're damaged from that ice storm we had a couple weeks back.
Right.
But
that's right.
Has it been like I've turned on a couple times, but the antenna that's up, it's not my best antenna, and it's not the good one. And I haven't been overly like, ooh, this is really good. I had a friend over on Saturday, and I brought him down to show him the shack, and I think it was Saturday, maybe Friday. Anyways, there wasn't too much activity going on, so maybe it's just my current, station that needs a little bit of help, but pretty active out there.
I worked Cuba today. I worked Cuba on 15 years, I think it was. Cuba on POTA. That's great, but my stateside stuff is it's tough. Again, I can work listen, there's a lot of things we have to remember. I'm running 100 watts, sitting on the NI4L off-center fed antenna up about 35 feet in the air, trying to work another guy who maybe has a compromised antenna, maybe he doesn't, who knows how much power he's running, where he is, does he have some type of metal structure near him? My antennas are pretty much in the clear. There's so much get out the chalkboard and the all the equations of why I could hear and work Cuba like crazy, but all the other POTA stations that I'm trying to work, I'm hearing their hunters are all 5'9", but I can't hear the activator. So it's kind of hit or miss. It doesn't deter me from playing radio. I'll tell you that much. But it's just been a very, like I said, when I saw that comment on Twitter a couple days ago, I believe it was, where again one guy said he almost wished we had less sunspots and we were in a different part of the cycle and we didn't even have to worry about the storms.
That's one thing I've noticed. I've gone to the POTA app website to hunt a couple times in the last month, and haven't had a lot of success with POTA guys, the activators. I wonder if it's the whole craze with QRP, or maybe not maybe some compromised antenna. I'm not too sure. Maybe
I can tell you most. I could tell you one thing, James and all the friends up there and who are spotting from the Ontario area. And I'm not sure what I'm not sure what your Providence name is. If it is Ontario or Ottawa or whatever you are, or number 1, number 2,
Ontario.
wherever you are. You're Ontario. I cannot work you guys on 40 meters. I cannot work you guys on 20 meters. It is the most frustrating. And I even ran downstairs. Go to the map. I'm gonna say about maybe 500 to 700 miles, maybe. As the crow flies,
we should be.
Go to New Haven, Connecticut. Go to New Haven, Connecticut.
Hold on, let me just put in my address.
There we go.
Honestly,
just doing math, everybody.
I ain't doing no math. Obviously, it's not as a crow flies, but it's 559 kilometers. Let's change that to miles.
Conversion, please.
347 miles.
Okay, so less than 500
miles.
So
I know what it is,
What?
Izzo. It's because there's tolls along the way, and so like
there's no tolls
it
in
doesn't
Connecticut,
have.
my friend. There's tolls in New York State. Maybe in that New York State
Yeah,
thruway.
that's what I don't know. I should. I got in a bunch of New Jersey and stuff like that, so I don't know. Who knows?
But it's very interesting here in Connecticut. Just overall, again, the temperatures are starting to warm up. We're all cutting grass. Like I said, the daffodils and other flowers are popping like crazy. We're starting to hear the frogs chirping at night. It's a fun time to kind of break out of that whole winter. Molson, have you had that yet? Of the cold temperatures, kind of like just going like freezing. Has it still hit the freezing mark at night for you? Or during the day?
I don't think so. It's been a little chilly. Like we had a week where it was like 17, 20, which is, pretty warm. But we're speaking about that. I was watching this comedian and he says Celsius makes no sense. Fahrenheit makes sense. He goes, when you say 70, it's easy to, go on a scale of like 0 to 100, right? It's like 70% hot. 100 is like, it's perfect, and anything over 100 it's like too much, right? And it's a good scale of comfort. So I was like, I never thought about it like that. Anyways, we had some warm time, and then the last week we had like 5 days of rain. So my cleanup from the ice storm and then getting on the roof to fix my antennas up the tower hasn't happened. And but yeah, we're going through a little bit of a cold snap right now. Not freezing temperatures, like it's 36 Fahrenheit right now, so just above freezing.
So how's your son now doing with the vehicle and driving and everything?
Good. He's going for his full license on Thursday, I think it is, or Friday.
Excellent.
So I don't anticipate seeing him. I don't know if we talked about that on the show, but my son he bought himself a pickup truck, and he's getting his full license on Friday. So I don't anticipate seeing him or my other kids this weekend. They'll probably be driving all along the countryside. So
now, what happens in Canada? So serious question. The empty nesters. So serious question though. So what happens in Canada when one of your kin, one of your youths or kin, whatever you want, kids, your hatchlings, whatever you all call your Canadian people there, your kid goes up and gets his license. Now, for insurance purposes, what does your insurance go up like how it does here in the United States?
No, so every province is different. Like Quebec has really cheap driver's insurance. That's where I grew up. In Ontario is known to have high insurance rates. We spoke to our insurance and it would have made no difference. So we insured it in his name. And the biggest thing is, like, if it was insured in our name and then he was the primary driver, if he got in an accident, it would penalize me. And so now in his own name, it's the same rate. And it doesn't penalize me if he gets in an accident or does something stupid. So
is there a province in Canada that it has cheaper insurance rates for motor vehicles?
I think Quebec.
Out of all of them, even up in the Northwest Territories, where
I'm pretty sure it's all Quebec. Hydro's cheaper in Quebec. Insurance is cheaper in Quebec. There's a lot that's cheaper in Quebec. So
because there's a bigger pool of people, is that it?
No, it's the laws, it's the civil code, it's all that play into it, I think. So
okay, so my brain says logic that doesn't make sense, because statistically, I believe, and if there's any statisticians out there in the chat who want to educate us, it's my understanding more people have the potential of getting into more accidents, which means more payouts, which the insurance company doesn't want to do. So I would think in your heavily populated areas, your insurance would be more compared to your provinces with less dense population.
Yeah, well, Ontario has the highest. Ontario does have the highest population, and they have probably. I don't know if Vancouver's. I don't know. I haven't lived everywhere, and it's one of those things where, if you're not a citizen of California, you're not going to look at rates for California driver's license, right? So, or driver's insurance. So, but I'm pretty sure Quebec's cheaper. But there are some other circumstances that I think make it cheaper, besides for logic. But I can't speak to those. So Anyways, long story short, my son got his insurance, and so Friday he is Mr. Independent, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So,
Cool. All right.
and, you know, it's
Joe
kind of
Brett.
scary, right? Guys, it's kind of scary. I don't know, but like, you know, it feels like 2 years ago, like you're cleaning up like friggin' projectile vomit and like runny diarrhea off their back, and then like next thing you know, listen, if you're a parent, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know
right?
that's what makes it worse.
Absolutely right.
And,
Let me tell you
then
something.
all of a sudden, it's like they got their driver's license and they're buying a pickup truck and they're on their own. It's like, what happened to my life? Like how the years, like then you realize
diaper changes were treated like a NASCAR pit stop in my house. That's how I did it. I was like, we're going to get this done because the first time it takes you longer. Matter of fact, I had to ask Sue, like, what do you do? But then I started putting logic to it. I said, wait a minute, I'm going to get the diaper ready over here. I'm going to get the dude wipes over here, and in case you have any of that rash going on, you need the paste. Okay.
Listen,
so I would line it all up.
Listen, I can tell you this. What? I always laugh at parents who say that they're going to cloth diaper their kids. I'm like, oh yeah, let's wait till you see the first. No,
I didn't do that.
First mustard explosion, okay?
No. I agree. No. I agree. No. We used Pampers or whatever was on sale because after a while you get. I mean, tell you so. You start stacking up those coupons and you start buying them in bulk. But no, seriously, I used to have everything just like in NASCAR. They got the tires ready, they got the gasoline ready. Who needs to take the sheet off for the bugs and debris? I would get that thing down. And you are right, because when the kid would have a blowout and it goes right up the back, and then you're like, oh my God, I got to change a onesie. So then I learned you better keep a onesie there in case you need to, do an entire, makeover for the kid. And then
for those on the podcast, I just want to say welcome to Daddy Daycare podcast. If you have any questions about your kids, just let us know.
Right, we could. So we should probably do a segment on this because you take all of our experience. I bet you we got close to over 100
I don't think anybody
wants
to know about projectile vomit and this week we're at the neighbors having a beer. We were talking about the time my son swallowed a loonie, like our dollar coin.
What's a loonie?
I ever tell you about that?
No, what happened?
My youngest son, when he was younger in our old house in Montreal, so he must have been like 4 or 5, something like that. He runs upstairs from the basement, and to my wife, he goes, Mom, I swallowed money. She's like, what? He's like, I swallowed money. She goes, how did you do that? He goes, I flipped it in the air, and I caught it with my mouth, and it went down my throat.
Oh, like, what? No.
And so my wife calls me. I'm at work, and I'm like, okay, is he breathing? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So anyway, so she was all panicked. She Dr. Google, and in Quebec, you can call in for like a what
Dr.
do you call it?
Google.
No, but in Quebec, you can call into like a telephone clinic. And anyways, they said, well, what is it? Is it a small coin? Is it a big coin? We don't know. So she's like, well, you got to take him to the hospital because if it's a bigger coin, it can get stuck. So I have a picture of the X-ray, and the doctor and I are there, and they take the X-ray of the body, and we're like, is it a loonie? Is it a toonie? Like, what is it? Is it a quarter? So we're there. I'm with the doctor. I'm like, you have a measuring tape? He said, yeah. So we feel my son's like bones on his shoulders. And so I measure it. Yep. And I'm like, okay, I write it down. Then I take a picture of the, I go, so I measure his, and then I go to the X-ray. I measure the bones, and then I measure, and I do the scale, I'm doing ratios. I'm like, well, based on the math, it's a toonie. He's like, oh, that's not good. Right.
Oh, hang on. For us in America, what's a loonie and a toonie? Like what's the,
a loonie is our dollar, which is the like brass or the bronze, and a toonie is the $2 coin.
And these are fairly large size.
They're bigger than a quarter. They're not huge. They're marginally bigger than a quarter.
So just how it went down. So just how with the velocity of this kid. So let's do some math while we're doing math tonight. So he throws it up in the air, and based on the velocity and the passage of how it just dropped perfectly then.
Well, it depends on 9.8 meters per second square is the gravity, and I don't know. You just swallowed a friggin'
times
toonie.
3.14.
I don't know.
All right. So now the thing is, what do we do? Because going in may be easier, going out
I'll
may
find
not
the picture.
be as easy, right?
Listen, I had nothing to do with that. That was the point where I'm like, I'm not committed enough to being a parent to be responsible for that. So I was like, babe, you're supposed to go gold hunting. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, you're supposed to pan for gold. I was like, I'm out. Good luck. So
knock on wood. None of my kids did. None of my kids ever said, "Oh, what's this? Let me swallow this. Oh, what's this electrical outlet? Let me put my finger." My kids never did that. Then maybe my kids are not normal. I don't know. I just never had that.
I'm gonna Izzo. We're friends on Facebook. It's in my photo. I'm gonna go grab it. The picture of the X-ray. It's hilarious. Give me a second here. It'll take me a couple. But in the meantime, while I'm looking, Joe Brett, what's going on with you, buddy?
Oh, same old, guys. I never have anything interesting like that to talk about. I've just been spending the week making video and watching videos until we get here to another Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I will say my video that I finally released with the clips of the Nugget show about the free data, that thing is really taking off. So if any of you has watched that video and has questions or suggestions, if you'll leave it in the comments, the developers are watching the comments very closely.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go. I got the X-ray. You ready? There's the X-ray. So you can see right there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It landed in his back. Wait.
It's in his belly,
what
buddy.
Viewpoint? No, that's in his belly.
This is his belly. All right. So yeah, that's
sure.
So we were literally measuring, like, you see the pelvis bone there, so you feel it out, you measure it, and then you measure it in person, you write that down. We measure the X-ray on the screen and then the coin, and we're doing the scale to see for reference, and it was hilarious. It was almost as funny as when I had to X-ray my dog. So
dude, I would be like, that would be my profile picture. I would be like, that's like a miracle right there, man. That kid could be getting some money, man. So whatever, so they can check out the human body. Why that thing had the trajectory.
Ron goes, how did he not choke? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Ron. Thank you.
It's like he should have, if he was young, at that age, if you could buy a lottery ticket, he should have. But so we were talking with friends, telling friends about that, and they're laughing. And then I was like, well, it's not as funny as when I went to get X-rays for my dog. I think I told you guys about this, but my dog, she was bloated. Like, you guys seen so I have Rhodesian Ridgebacks, and she was bloated. Like she's a skinny dog. And we're like, ooh, that's not good. But she's been eating, like, at that point when we first got, she was eating socks. She was ripping up blankets and eating and literally like puking out socks or blankets, right? Anyway, so she's bloated. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. And like, if it doesn't go down in an hour, we have to deal with this. So I call the vet. He's like, bring her in. It's after hours emergency. So we get there. He's like, ooh, this isn't good. Like, she's really bloated. So he's like, we got to take an X-ray. So great, but he didn't want to knock her out. So he's like, I just got to hold her. And he's like, he's alone. He's like, I'm going to need help to hold her. I said, okay. Well, I said, I'll help you. He's like, well, you're going to have to put him, I'm not supposed to. You're not an employee. But he says, like, just don't tell anybody, So he goes to look, and he has, they have those lead aprons. So he didn't have another one. She's like, crap, what are we going to do? I said, don't worry. So I said, just stand at the machine. He stands at the machine, and I go behind him. And I got my arms out behind him, like almost like hugging him from behind. I'm like, don't you say anything to anyone. He's like, deal, done. So, but
I got a story, but I don't know if I could say it here. I'm just trying to.
Can't be worse than last week with your stories.
All right, I'm thinking. I think I can clean this up and keep it as so the ASPCA doesn't come after me, or because it happened back in the 70s. So I think the statute of limitations, and it wasn't my dog. But I did offer to help, so I do think I get credit for that, because when you offer to help, I think that offers you credit right off the bat, right? Doesn't it? The lady around this is so yeah. This is the late 70s, okay, guys. Lady in our neighborhood. I lived in this horseshoe neighborhood. One of the and I'm not going to say her name or where the house is in case anybody's going to watch this 10 years from now and figure out who it is. They had two of these, the hot dogs. What do you call those things? Dash hounds or something? Not Doberman. Yeah, dash hounds, I think it is. And back then in the 70s, shag rugs. Everybody had. No, the small-legged, furry dash. I think they were dash hounds.
I don't know.
And everybody back in the 70s had shag rugs. I don't care who you were yet. You either had linoleum floors in the kitchen and whatever, and you had shag rugs. Some people had wood floors, but shag was it. It was cool to have shag. Sort of like Brady Bunch stuff. Yeah, that
Hold on,
linoleum.
we got Shane. Shane's joining us. Shane, just get your camera working, buddy. Anyway, so there you go.
So okay, so the dog was a chewer. This dog would chew open a tennis ball. This dog would chew up. As a matter of fact, he got one of my frisbees, so maybe this is payback. Because I was a huge frisbee player. The 5.0 ounce frisbees, the big boy. Anyway, that's another story I'll tell later or for another time. This dog was a chewer. He chewed through a clothesline. He would chew everything. And chewing, that's not good after a while. And all I know is the dog kind of wobbled outside, and we're looking at him, and he doesn't look right. Well, come to find out, he was chewing the shag rug in the bathroom. And this dog had a piece on the inside, hanging out of the outside and hanging out of the other outside, if you know what I mean. So there was like string or something hanging out of his mouth, but then he had stuff hanging out of the caboose. And that's when we all got nervous. And literally how my face is right now, I'm like, now what do we do? So, of course, back then, you had to go run to the telephone. So we had to run to the telephone in the kitchen to go make a phone call to his mother, who was at work, saying, the dog has got string coming out of its mouth and coming out of its ass. And we didn't know whether to pull, but the dog is kind of like, you
could floss
he's just not looking right.
Oh my God.
If we were in Discord right now in the dumpster fire section, or there would be a whole lot more of the. Anyway,
Shane,
my buddy
where are you at?
Shane.
What's
I'll stop
up?
my story for a minute.
Boy, I probably had really bad timing because I missed all of it. I was trying to transition out of the dumpster fire into here. For some reason, my camera wouldn't work. But
the problem is that this is a dumpster fire. We are
all right, so I'm right at home. Awesome.
All right.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Was doing good.
Hey, you'll never. Hey, I'm not gonna say it.
All right, so
well.
I can speed up a little bit, but I think you guys are kind of knowing what we're going to do with this, because we don't want to pull. We don't want to pull seriously. And who's going to grab what end? I'm like, dude, that's not my dog. I'm going to grab the mouth. I ain't grabbing the caboose end. That's your dog.
Oh boy, I did walk into that conversation.
Next thing I know, he goes to the kitchen. You know how in the kitchen everybody has that junk drawer? I still have a junk drawer. We all have a junk drawer in the kitchen, okay? He pulls out a pair of where'd Joe Brett go? He pulls out a pair of pliers. And I'm like, dude, you can't be pull. Dude, you're gonna hurt. You don't know if it's if it's like spaghetti where it's just like a piece, or is there like 3 inches of shag rug in the dog's belly? You don't know. We don't know what's going on.
Oh,
like, don't worry about
put
it.
the pieces together. Okay.
Right.
Well,
we don't
you're
know
talking
if
about
this is
straight
like
carpet. Then when I come on here, you're talking about a dog, and then okay.
it was shag rug. The dog was a chewer shape. Scout. He was a chewer. So now I said, all right, so logic. So me and my logic, even back then I had logic. I said,
You sure?
I said, well, if you're gonna pull it with the pliers, I need something on the other end to see if it tugs, because that will be then we'll know if it's one big long piece. If it's one big long piece, we got to stop right there. That's a veterinarian trip. I don't care what happens.
I was gonna say you'll cut right through the intestines and stuff.
Right, we don't know we don't know what's wrapped around the umbilicus cord and the liver and all sort of stuff. So
Christ, can we talk about APRS or something?
Dr. Izzo.
Story short.
I'm just picturing the old magician trick where you pull in the handkerchiefs and just keep coming out and coming out.
That's exactly what we thought. I was just going to tell you that was the joke he was making.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, this ain't no joke. He tugged it a little bit and the dog gave a yelp. Said, that's it. Stop.
Yep. Joe's gone red. Joe started pink. Now he's red. I don't understand.
His mother pulls into the driveway like a bat out of hell. She sees the tools. We're all getting in trouble. I'm like, can we just get the dog to the veterinarian?
I was getting a buzz, but it's gone.
I think $500 or $700 later, back in those days for a veterinarian bill, that was still probably a lot of expensive stuff. But regardless, I'm glad we didn't do anything. They were able to do some emergency surgery. They had to cut in pieces, pull it out. That dog lived about 18 years old, and she did not rip up I told the kid, my friend at the time, I'll bet you anything. I'll bet you your mother's going to rip all the shag carpet out of the house. And the only thing she ripped out was the stuff in the where he was chewing in the bathroom. But I hear a dog barking somewhere.
That's what I'm. You're like, I'm out of here. Izzo's around. When the emergency services have a dog on the scene, they call Izzo because they all run. They're like. So, anyways, how you doing, Shane?
I'm doing well. How you doing tonight, Daniel?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Good.
So, anything new and exciting with radio, amateur radio?
Yes, I jumped in and I'm making some major upgrades for the home shack. As you know, I prefer to play radio outside, but I'm stepping up the game. I got a 20 element 2-meter antenna coming in. It's 10 elements on vertical and 10 on horizontal. It's a cross beam thing. So I'm going to be able to play single sideband with some friends of mine that live a ways away. So that's going to be pretty fun. And with that and another antenna coming on and a mounting system, I went whole hog. I got a remote coax switch. So I won't be flipping buttons in here and running 10 miles of coax in. I'm going to have some short runs going from the different VHF, UHF antennas I have. I can just have one run of LMR 400 coming into the house instead of 4 or 5. So
that's cool.
It'll be a lot of fun. And then
what switch did you go with? Did you go with the Ameritron or?
Yep, the Ameritron with the lightning protection built into it. So
nice.
I figured if I'm gonna go full on. So I got that going. This is gonna be the year of antennas. I got the DX Commander Expedition that was on sale.
Yeah.
I already broke the end of it, so I had to do a little.
Is that duct tape surgery?
There's super glue, and then on top of that is a layer of hot glue to give it a little cushion so I can avoid breaking it again. So
Nice.
I just took the mask out.
Stay away from the Shag rug.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I took the mask out on a few portable operations, and I might want to get another one of these just for that. So in another week or two, when it gets a little nicer outside, I'll be putting that expedition together. So I got antenna projects and home improvement projects, all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah.
So Shane, before you came on, before the show started, Izzo was itching to talk about the ARRL fee increase and the survey that you said that they had, Izzo.
Yes.
Izzo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody was text. Hey, this is important. Somebody was texting.
He's googling shag colors. So
can a dog
avocado green or harvest gold or?
He's like 50 Shades of Shag.
It was white. It was white. The shag rug was white and gray. But she had a black. There was a black shower curtain.
That's enough.
I don't know why. It wasn't a shower curtain. It was always black. Polka sometimes too.
Okay.
Oh, you know what I want to talk? You know what I want to talk about?
What?
Right before I fell asleep earlier, I'm watching Iron Man. I've seen Iron Man, I don't know, a dozen times, and that's number one. I kind of like the first one. It's just like the first hour or so. But he's back home. I think we're about 90 minutes into Iron Man. And tell me, has anyone else has seen this? The lady with the blonde hair, what was that? Gwyneth Paltrow, whatever.
Yeah.
She reaches in. She's trying to do something inside the heart area. You know, that the cylinder that's in his chest.
Yeah.
And where's Ape? Ape. I'm like, oh my God! I screamed Ape, smoking Ape, and my kid looked at me like I was nuts. She pulls it out, and there's a gold copper wire sit down, no insulation on it, and it's wrapped around a toroid. And I'm like, oh my God. So, Smoking Ape, I'm giving you a homework assignment. If not, I'll get it, and I'm going to get a picture of that, and we got to tweet that out. So,
yeah.
Even Iron Man used toroids. So,
what was the winding? What was it?
Oh, there was a lot of winding on there, man.
Was it 49 to 1? Was it?
That's where I want Ape's expertise. You know, Ape's expertise.
What kind of ham radio show is this when you can't even distinguish if it's a 49 to 1 or a 9 to 1?
Listen, I'm a good operator. I'm a good operator.
All right, so you wanted to talk about the ARRL fees. Go ahead. Open the door. Start the convo.
Okay. So, if you are an ARRL member, there's a hyperlink that's going to probably be floating all through your emails, social medias. It's probably on the website, on the ARRL website right now. They're asking for input. How do you feel about the? I haven't gone to it myself, so I haven't seen the actual questions, but I just seen some of the prelude of what they've been looking for.
Prelude.
They want feedback. They want feedback of, where should the league maybe go? That's my interpretation. If I'm wrong, guys, please tell me I'm wrong. Tell me in the chat. But they're looking for opinions of, and I don't know if they're going to go down this road. Is it time to start eliminating the print copy? Because they're claiming that is one of the most expensive pieces of the business is to do the magazine. So do they start to ask people maybe voluntarily? Will that help start driving their expenses down? I don't know. There's probably a lot of other areas that could be maybe a little trim of the budget. We also know too, before we start trimming budgets, we also got to know things are just expensive all around. So again, you just can't just start saying, well, take this out and take that out, because there could be a domino effect. I mean, Molson, you're in the business. You know what that's like. I'm sure there's probably many times you want to cut your costs somewhere, but you can't because it'll have a negative effect somewhere down the line to your finished product. Correct?
So I was reading it kind of blew up today on Facebook. And I listen, I've served on several board of directors, and every year you develop a budget, and that budget gets approved, right? Mm-hmm. And so you compare it to the previous year, and then obviously with your budget, you prepare a purpose and a vision of what you want to do to sell if you're going to be over budget. The inflation thing, yeah, you could give credibility to that, but it seems from what I read on a post, I think Dave Minster had said in his wording that the ARRL has been depending on their investments, the capital gains on their or return on investments to fund the ARRL for a little while now. And so the problem is that in any organization that have members, you are stewards of the money of that organization. And that requires proper planning and proper budgeting. And my issue is that it does not appear that it's all unexpected expenses or an increase to costs. Like I know that in the letter it talked about the paper increase over COVID and the availability, but that's a one-time little crisis, right? That's an outlier. Right. But there seems to be a lot of ambition and poor stewardship of the money that you're managing when you're saying that you've been relying on the investments, the return on investments for a while. Obviously, I don't know all the nitty gritty. I'm not a member of the ARRL, but just reading what I saw, I did download the filings from the ARRL for their tax audit, read through it a bit. So to me, it comes down to that. That's the first thing. Anytime an organization is asking for more money, that essentially that you willingly they're accountable to the people. And so the first thing that comes to my mind is, how were you a steward of my money in the first place? And so if you've developed plans without considering fully the implications on your financial burden, that lack of stewardship or that lack of ability to manage a budget properly within the means, to manage your programs within the means, if that's what it is, that's not fair to turn around and now say that the members have to look. You know what I mean? Like, yep. That would be like any business going to their customer saying, I know I quoted you $10 to build this part, but it costs me more. And then when you go and you say, well, why did it cost you more? And it's because of their mismanagement of the project and project managing. You can't do that.
Correct.
And so the first thing they have to do is to me would be prove that you've been stewards of the money that we were given in the first place. And to me, when I look at it, I'm not sold on that. And I think a lot of people aren't sold on that. I think there's some people who are, you always have like, it's a cult mentality where like can do no wrong, like a lot of churches and other organizations. It's just like, political parties, doesn't matter what they do, you support the party. And that's great for them. There's always gonna be those people. And for more
you struck on the big thing is the good stewardship, because like you said earlier, there's always this crisis where, hey, we need this emergency increase for this thing and this thing. So you chip in a few extra bucks because you got to replace that or do that. But that emergency increase never goes away when the emergency's gone. That it stays there, and then you just go up to the next level and the next level.
It becomes a new norm, doesn't it, Shane?
Yeah. And you see that my brother-in-law, he doesn't know anything about ham radio, so I can throw him under the bus. He runs a trucking company, and years ago when gas prices went up, he passed the charges on to his customers. There's a fuel fee and stuff like that. My dad asked him, he goes, what do you do when the gas prices go back down? And he just kind of laughs. He goes, nothing. I'm going to keep the fuel fee because it's going to be there.
Right.
So that's the way it is, because nobody ever thinks about that. Like the ARRL or any other organization, they raise fees, or governments especially, they raise fees or taxes to cover a certain project. When that project's gone, they don't drop those fees. They just keep absorbing it. So I think that's a big problem that a lot of people have with the ARRL and others. It's like, if you're going to raise my fees or my taxes or whatever, I'm fine with that if I get something in return.
Mm.
What's ARRL going to do with these more fees? What is the incentive for me to keep playing along? Is where I'm going. It can't just be, well, it's inflation. Costs go up. I get that, but what costs went up? Give me a little details.
Right.
Mm.
I mean, my biggest thing has always been with the league, what are you doing for me as a member? What are you doing for me as a member? What are you providing? I'm providing you with $49 a year. Okay. And what am I getting back? As well as in simple terms, put out a nice sheet and tell us here and break it down into categories of topics. I would think of, how much are we spending for the attraction of, let's say, the uh, from the 5-year-old to the 18-year-old category, from the 18 to maybe the 40-year category and 40 plus. What are we doing in those categories to make people aware? And there should be some dollar amounts set for this, because while I do believe youth is important, but if we're putting a lot of money towards the youth with amateur radio, I'm sure there's a very high percentage of people who are watching this right now could say, yeah, at 14 or 15, I was semi-interested. It was cool. But then all of a sudden, other aspects, and it's completely normal. Things happen. You get a job. You get interested in the opposite, in the opposite sex. You start listening to music. And then college comes in, and you stray away from it. I know I was that kid. I was so in. Everyone says to me, what do you mean you didn't get your license when you were 10, 12 years old? I said, yeah, but my grandfather was doing it. I was watching him. And probably if I wasn't in the shack as much, I probably would have gotten my license. But that's neither here or there. The point was, as soon as I hit 14, 15, 16, I didn't want to know nothing about ham radio. I was more into broadcast radio, man, and DJs and commercial radio, and putting boom boxes on lawn tractors and walking, and doing all that kind of crazy stuff, and working with theater groups, and with audio and visual and all that kind of stuff. And then I came back to it. So my point is maybe it's a good thing to spend X amount, and I'm not the guy to say what that dollar amount should be. And that's just one category. That's just one category. The other is regulations. Where are we around the world with companies who want certain segments of our bands here in the United States? That's a whole nother category. Then you have all the other categories of the whole. And I don't know if they're spending money with NTS and ARRL. But ARRL and NTS varies around the country. Is that something that they should be still, funding, or maybe reduce funding, put more money in? That's not for me to decide. But these are things that I'm hoping that the $49 that I'm giving, that smart people are making some very good educated decisions. I don't want to hear costs are going up. Okay, everybody is affected by costs going up. I don't care whether you're a ham radio operator. I don't care who you are. If you're Mrs. Johnson, who lives down the street and has her little dash hound, and she walks it because, and she has to bring it to the vet because he's chewing on the shag rug. I don't care. I don't care that the vet bill costs more today than what it did back in the 70s. It is what it is. Costs are really up everywhere. So
to go along, I was going to introduce, but to go along with that is that the problem that people fail to see is every organization has blinders, right?
Right.
I got my phone, I got my insurance, I got my heating, I got my house, I got everything. And most people are living paycheck to paycheck. So when you say, oh, it's just $10, oh, it's just $15, I can tell you there's a lot of people out there that makes a difference, especially when everybody that you pay money to does that. So that's where, for me, it's like, show me the proof. Like, show me, like, and that's where, to me, I said, like it's not a momentary crisis. This has been, in my opinion, when your expenses have always been higher than your real receivables. It's bad management of money. And the reality is, the biggest talking point every ARRL member has told me is like they petition the government. I would like to know how they petition the government and how much traction they have, because is it just a letter sent? Is that all it is? Or are you in Washington sitting in front of the people, or like, what are you doing with the money? Because I can tell you, you can get a lawyer to make a letter for $500 and send it off. Like that's, like, what are you doing? How are you really petitioning? Like,
are you putting a form letter on your Facebook page for us to send in, or are you actually putting boots on the ground? Yeah, that's a big thing for me. Is if you want my money, show me what you're going to do for it. Give me some data. It's
right. Salaries. The salaries. I would love to know what everybody is making, and is it appropriate for this type of fraternal organization? For all I know, maybe they should be getting more money. I don't see. I don't know. I don't. And maybe this information is all openly available. Maybe all I have to do is ask. I, for one, have not asked. So I'm not here to put down the league. I'm not here. I'm just asking some basic questions.
Yeah, I would just like a basic overview of their budget, saying of every dollar that goes in, X amounts going for salaries, X amounts are going for this project. This is what that project is. This is what this project is. Yeah. So you can see.
I'm not much for like, okay, what are the names of the people and how much do they make? That's not my business, and that's really you trust. That's where you trust the discernment and decision making of the board. But it would be interesting to know the percentage. Like every healthy organization would have your payroll is a proportion to your income, right? So only a certain percentage, and if you're higher than that, you're not.
Why would you not want to know? But why would, first off, what Scout just said, yes, I do want to see the power. Hold on. I do want to see the pie graph. I do want to see what it. But why wouldn't you? And without mentioning names, but certain positions, why would you not want to know what that individual makes?
Why? I think to some degree,
it's hard to put to reference.
Yeah, but let's say it's one thing. Izzo, I think it's one thing if like we say that the mayor of whatever town you live in Connecticut, like how much are they making, right?
Right.
And then like how much is the first responder guy making? Right, it's a different thing, right? Like one's public office, one's an elected position, and then regular staff members is another story. And I don't like when you start having 90,000 members critiquing every position. You can talk about the overall budget, you can talk about the president and vice president. But when you start going to staff, that's a whole nother story. That it's kind of like, I'm not too. I don't know, whatever. But I do think as an organization, you want to make sure that your proportions of payroll versus your overall income is what a healthy organization would want to be. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to exceed like 30-something%. And if you're higher than that, then you then in any other business, your accountant would say you have a problem and you have to solve it.
You have a problem,
right?
You're absolutely right.
So,
You're absolutely right.
Anyways, we have a guest coming on who is brilliant when it comes to the stuff of the ARRL and all of this ham radio stuff. Joe Brett, would you like to do the honors and introduce?
Sure, here she is. Hello, Miss Rhea.
Can you hear me?
She is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good. I hope I'm not tank radio volume, but I hope I'm not quiet volume either.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, great. Yeah, StreamYard is great about that. So I heard
we petitioned StreamYard to we petitioned StreamYard, and if you want proof, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I got the survey. I don't think I'm going to fill it out though because the board knows all of my opinions about this dues increase. Being a former insider, and I could tell you. Well, I'll tell you my opinions right now do not reflect any of the current organizations I'm with. So just so we clear.
Yeah.
I saw somebody mention salaries. Do you know the salaries are actually public info?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now.
Yeah, they're in the 990. They file out with the IRS every year, and you don't get to see what every employee makes, but you get to see what the big, highly compensated employees make.
I'll tell you now. I'll interject. Under line 15 of expenses, salaries and other compensations, employee benefits is $7.682 million on an overall income of $14.57 million. That's a high percentage in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's almost 50%. That's almost 50%.
Yeah, but you're looking at the annual report. I'm talking about the 990, the IRS 990, which is
that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at that.
No, they have specifics for highly compensated employees.
I'm on Form 990 right now.
Well, I mean, they also have other stuff in the annual report. You're not going to get for every employee, and I could tell you that a lot of the rank and file staff, I think, are kind of they're not paid like they're not paid exorbitant salaries. I think they work hard. I think the staff are very underappreciated. My main problem with the ARRL is the politics, and I've always been against the politics. So
it's always been there, Rhea. You know that it's always been there, and I think it always will be there. From what I've seen, and just and I'm talking about listening to the guys back in the 60s and the 70s when I was a young kid, not really understanding what politics was. Now that I'm older now, I'm like, oh my, it's like that deja vu, and now history is starting to repeat itself again. Maybe different topics, but it's the same conduit, the same. Here we go again.
Yeah. I think I really, like I said, the politics is bad, and I know it's always there. It's one of the reasons I decided to leave. I wasn't asked to leave or anything. I was approached with something that I found to be better, and I said, you know what, I will leave. So,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things, though. I think overall, and again, I am not here to bash the AR. I'm a firm believer. You don't bash. You want to provide something. No, you don't. But there are some people who do. We may not know them personally, but we see it. And I'm always one. If you really want to get into it, you provide solutions and you provide it upstairs to that organization. What they do with it, we don't know, but that's really the way. Maybe it catches their attention if more people around the country or more part of the population of that membership starts with the same tone. Doesn't have to be the exact wording, but the same tone of where things are going. I know for me, when I look at the YouTubers, and I include myself, I am not a YouTuber. I am not a guy busting my butt making one video a week to a month, whatever. But when I am, as an audience member, watching these YouTubers going out and explaining stuff to me and looking at different product lines, and I don't care how they get into the product or how they got to the product. I really don't care. The point is they're introducing me to products, but my fraternal organization is not. I want my fraternal organization to be doing that in addition to everybody else. Get in the game. Get going, and stop just hanging our what's what I'm looking for. Stop talking about just field day. Ham radio is much more than just the fourth weekend in June. There's so many aspects of our hobby, and start getting, as well as levels of our hobby, especially now, I think. Because everybody doesn't really need a radio. All you need is this little device, and you can talk across town, and you can talk across the world. So why do I need to play radio? It's a hobby, I get it, but again, help me at different levels. Not everyone knows what a tube and a capacitor is. And
I agree.
That's the wonderful world of YouTube that I like, because so many of our friends will break it down for us. Like the other night, I'm watching T.O., and I had no idea what the hell T.O. and Jim were doing, but it was just fun
Jim
to
doesn't
sit
either.
there. But T.O. did a great job, and Jim, because they were reaching out to a guy like me who is not who does not have electrical background. I know it from the other side. I know more RF than electrical versus and computer software. But when you can get me to sit there for 30 to 45 minutes and not have my head explode, that's very good.
Yeah.
They do a very good job. Ape is another one. He's, and so many, Jason, and listen, we can go through the list. I don't want to leave anybody out. It's not fair. But there are so many great people doing videos and community. Keyword, they're communicating with us at all various levels. And I want my fraternal, yes, even you, and I want my fraternal organization to do the same thing too. So
Yeah.
I'm off my
I don't want to dominate this discussion. But I
You
really
can't do
appreciate
that.
I really appreciate coming on. I'll tell you, I believe in the ARRL. I support the ARRL. Otherwise I wouldn't have sacrificed the time and frankly getting pelted at. I got all sorts of creepy just this week. I got another creepy letter in the mail from somebody who is going to dox me, and I wouldn't talk more about it because there might be some law enforcement involved in that. But I sacrificed a good bunch of my essentially sanity, being on the ARRL board, and I only did because I love ham radio and I love the ARRL, and I think that the ARRL is essential to ham radio. But like I said, as I said in my radio show this week, we have to watch them like a parent watches a child. Sometimes you gotta enact some discipline, right? Yeah,
that's a very good analogy.
Sometimes you gotta. I love my children, but sometimes I take away their screen time. So
it's about being a parent.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's interesting. Question for you, Rhea.
Yes.
So how does the ARRL petition like the FCC? Is it like it just like here's a letter and like hope it hits home, or is it like, yeah?
So the FCC being a U.S. government public agency chartered by and basically under the direction of Congress, everything they do is public, right? So what we do, and they're under the U.S. Constitution, we have the right to petition our government. And what we do is we petition the FCC to do certain things, or the FCC might come out with its own proposed rulemakings, or somebody else might do a proposed rulemaking, and then we comment on it. Okay, but the ARRL actually does a little more than that. The ARRL, David Siddall, the lawyer, who works in Washington for us, he actually goes to FCC public meetings. He asks questions. He meets with people. So it's a little more involved in that. The ARRL actually does. I think it does a pretty, decent job at lobbying. It's just that unfortunately you're up against Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, whoever else. Charlie Ergen.
Yeah, UPS to Fed, right? UPS to FedEx and all the broadcasters, you name it, right?
Yeah.
They would love to have. I'm sure everybody would love to have a certain part of the spectrum or the entire spectrum of what we use as a hobby. I get that. Rhea, do you think that the topic that you just explained, that more money? Tell me if this is a fair question. Is it one of the most expensive topics? Or most of the large expenses being, and should more money be put into it, or are we doing? Do you think the league is doing a good job with it, managing?
I think all things considered, since we can't afford big K Street lobbyists, we kind of make do with what we have, and I wish there was more money in the ARRL for lobbying, but what is there? I hope that they make good use of it. And some of my good friends on the board, some like John Robert Stratton, N5AUS, he is involved in the lobbying. And so I think that they could always use more, because Washington is all about money.
Right.
There are two problems. One of them is that the ARRL is a 501c3. So that kind of limits the lobbying activity that they could do. And the other is that there's just, only so much money. So, but I think, I really wish they could do more with more. And if I could like dedicate a dues increase just to go toward that kind of lobbying, yeah, I would do that. Of course, you could do that through donations, right? Mm-hmm. And, that's like the main thing. But, there's a lot of, like I mentioned, the things about me. I mean, I brought that up. I found that was a very sour episode, but that's part of politics, unfortunately. And the only way to get rid of that politics right now is through the election process. I tell people, don't drop their membership, remain a member and vote. Yeah.
Right. Good. Now, when it comes, Excellent point. When it comes to the legal side of protecting us, Rhea, do you think I don't mean this to be a loaded question, but do you think the league is doing a good job of telling us what's going, keeping us abreast of all these various topics, not to scare us, but keep, or should more information to us to show us, hey, listen, you're out of your $49, this is what we're doing, and there are expenses for this, and this is why. And again, don't turn it into a plead guilty, give me some more money, and there's a pot on the corner, throw some. I'm not, but communicate to us why throughout the year on a regular basis. This is what we're doing, and be a little bit more, expand a little bit more about it. Just don't say like back in the day when I forget who it was, FedEx or somebody wanted the 220 portion of the ban, and I think it was. I'm not sure if it was FedEx, so I apologize. But tell us just more about it. Just don't say that they want. Tell us more. What are you doing?
So that's a really good question. I would love for them to tell you more. And I agree. There needs to be some transparency. It's a double-edged sword. One of them is the members will see we're doing something. The other thing is our opponents will see us doing something, especially with this HOA bills, the CAI and such like that will see us doing, and they will crank up their lobbying gears as well to oppose us. So I think that there needs to be, yes, we need to tell the members, and I do think we need to be, well, okay, I keep saying we. I do think the
is it a
ARRL
careful balance? Is it a careful balance?
Yeah.
I should say. Is it of what you communicate then, without keeping us in the
Yeah,
dark?
there should be a careful balance, and I do think there have been a little too much overcautious. At the same time, I don't think going guns blazing and proclaiming press releases is going to be a good strategy because it gives our thing. A book I read and I'm still reading is The Art of War by Sun Tzu, his classic writings. So really good stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you, Don. Like I was saying, what have you done? And so I think that would be fantastic to show, and it doesn't have to be a huge write up. They're like, hey, here's what we've done. Maybe just like a little video clip saying, here's where we're at on this. It can be updates too. It doesn't have to be like a 30-minute show. It could be almost like what's it called on ARRL Newsline, how they do it. Like, hey, this will be, but at least show us traction. Show us that you're doing something with it. Because if that's your selling point, we advocate. That's the biggest selling point that everybody tells me is it's because they advocate. Great.
I agree.
What have they done?
Especially with the FCC. With the FCC. They should be telling you more. And I think it should be not just confined to Ham Club meetings. They should have PR, like YouTube videos. They just hired a new PR manager. I'm hoping she does, some good stuff for that. But I agree. There definitely needs to be some touting of that if they're going to ask us for more money. Yeah.
I like that idea.
My other thing for them is, and just so you know, I do plan on writing. I do plan on sending something up to Newington. It's the whole social media thing. Every Tuesday night, right now we have 86 people here watching us. Sometimes we talk about radio and sometimes we don't. Hell, we were learning about a dash hound who ate a shag rug, and we had a good laugh. But the point is, everyone comes here on Tuesday nights. We know before this show, between Scout and Mike, they're watching his shows. Kyle's trivia, Josh on Saturday nights. You know where I'm going is Jason on Sunday nights and whatever. Tank Radio. I really think the league really is. They are so late in the game, but get going with the social media, YouTube. Find a day, find a night, whatever, and go live or whatever, and get stuff on a regular basis. So this guy here and many others and those in the chat will potentially start watching that YouTube or whatever. Get it going. Push it out through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, whatever platforms they want. Get us in front of this YouTube and see what's going, and maybe different categories, because that's the only way I think of really getting out to the membership, of talking to people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at me, and I'll tell you internally, there are some people who are upset that I have my own brand, right? That I'm popular in the Ham community. But that's not a bad thing, you know. And I want to say the ARRL be popular too, so they should be doing more YouTube. They should be doing regular news updates, and they should be doing social postings. They hired somebody, like I said, they hired somebody new to do that stuff. So hopefully she could do that. You know, I just hope they don't wait too long, because yeah, like you said, they're late to the game.
Yeah,
So late.
understanding circle of influence and like social media influence. Like, I don't think any of us claim to have that impact, but if they knew, like, brands and businesses understand the impact that social media and content creators, or whoever it is, can have on a brand, and so to dismiss that, or to, not saying they did, but to not utilize that is a huge in 2023. It's like if you're late to the game, you might as well not even try. And that's unfortunately with most businesses, that's what happens, right? And so here you have, like, we're not the only ones to talk about it. I don't think any of us are overly in favor of this change. It doesn't affect me, but like, I think it's, you know, you guys heard my points. And so it's hard to rebuttal that, or to then go, well, you guys got it wrong. And when you're late to the game, like, they should be out there, not just some letter, but like, hey, here's why, here's how. You know, at the other side, how many members does the ARRL have?
It's about so I can't really give you exact stats.
About
I can, but I'm not allowed to, but I can tell you it's about 150,000.
Okay, so 150,000 people, increased range of increased membership of $10. That's $1.5 million. Is that going to make a difference, or do they still need to cut costs?
So here's the thing. That assumes that the membership is going to stay. The last dues decreased membership by a good bit,
As it should.
which is why I'm opposed to a dues increase.
I've heard a lot of people saying they're not going to renew.
yeah, no, a lot of people. But I'll tell you, I think there will still need to be some cost cutting. I mean, there's some cost cutting. But you know, I have been vocal in other places about some costs that have been incurred that really should not have been. But I wouldn't get into that too much. But I think that they will probably have to try to cut some costs. But what they want to do though is they want to like break out the magazine. If you look at the survey, they want to break out the magazine as a separate benefit. So I think that will I think they're hoping that a lot of people decide to go digital and they could scale down the printing operations. You
know, one thing that I said it here before, but ARRL, while they represent a lot of hams, they don't represent the majority of hams, right? And so in all of this, like, just to realize the impact that the ARRL has, like, not necessarily, like, they have probably more lobbying. They do have more lobbying impact, but let's look at, I don't know, Josh at HRCC. How many subscribers does he have? Right. And then you look at Jason. So the idea that ARRL with 100 or 150,000 members are invincible, or are the only unit, or, you know, the only entity that can have an impact is false, when you have other organizations or groups who have bigger following and loyalty than the ARRL. And so I think the ARRL needs to be very wise in how they navigate this. I think they need to be accountable, and they need to answer for the money that's been spent. And if it's been spent poorly, acknowledge that and do some remediation, figure out a way to because if you've been trusted with little and you haven't managed it properly, don't ask me for more and to expect for me to accept that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there are going to be some competing organizations, and I think is a good thing, actually. People point to ARDC, but I'll tell you that ARDC is not intending to replace the ARRL. ARDC wants to see the ARRL succeed, and I think that's a good goal. But at the same time, you know, they fund a lot of big things and want to push a lot of big things too. And there are some big things we're working on, believe it or not. But anyway, but yeah, no, I see others. Ham Radio Prep had an organization they were trying to start, and that kind of stalled out. And there are others. But it reminds me of an old quote from Hiram Percy Maxim, that Hiram Percy Maxim says is how the reason the ARRL prevailed is because the ARRL was about amateur radio and was true to its mission. Okay. Back then, I think that was more true than today. I think, like I said, the politics have kind of gotten in the way now. I think if they really want to survive long term, they need to wipe themselves clean of that.
You know, that happens so many places, though.
Yeah.
It's got that type of structure.
Right.
It radiates all the way down to your local radio club.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing,
it becomes this is the way we've always done it. We're the best, and you get so narrow-minded and so focused that it's kind of a hubris effect where you don't think you can do wrong. You're not listening to the people, and you need to take a step back and get some fresh perspective on things.
But I'm going to go to something. I'm gonna talk about another topic. I know where Rhea stands on this, but with the ARRL and how I think they're ineffective in what they do. It's all about what you say and how you sell a point. And I know, Rhea, you're against the idea. You don't think the ham radio is a service, which is fine. We can all have varying opinions. And the ARRL.
Hold on. You mean in terms of MCOM? I think MCOM is necessary. I just don't think it's the main reason we exist.
No, for sure. And I'm on the same page as you. It's a hobby that can benefit as a service, right? It's a hobby that has the potential to benefit in times as a service, if need be, right? So the idea that but the ARRL, they came out with that statement saying that it's a hobby, right? There was that was last year, I think it was. If you're in politics, you're in government, and a group of people come up to you, say they've diminished, they've reduced it down to a hobby, instead of selling the point that should the public people or those in government should be like, oh, we need to listen, because if it goes between a corporation with money, he's going to pay for a section of frequency versus hobby, right? Which one has more weight, right? And so if you petition government and you show your value as a potential service, not saying the ability to be a service, and then you have more of an impact on the credibility, the reasoning why you should keep that allocated frequency, right? And so in the last year, they came out, they said that, and to me, it was like, listen, we can all whatever, we can have our infighting about hobby, service, whatever, but when you're going up to the government, you should try and sell it for more than what it is. And then because otherwise it's just like, okay, great, go play your Monopoly, kids. But the big boys over here are going to pay us for it, right? And so that's, to me, is like you do a disservice in your sales point. Doesn't matter if you 100% agree with it, but that's your sales point. That's your elevator pitch. We're a service. We help.
Okay, so let me ask you a question before I give you my answer.
Go ahead.
What do you mean by amateur radio as a service? What exactly do we provide as a service?
Well, to me, when people talk about the service, not service, I always think about those who say they're going to save the world, like in disasters and stuff like that. So, like, you look at when Hawaii had that warning they called in the amateur radio, when we had the ice storm, the amateur radio service, the local group, emergency communications, that kind of stuff. Like, there's some people who take it far, they have badges and all the other shit. They drive around their car with amber lights, and they're the cuckoos who like pretend they're cops. That's a whole other thing that nobody's talking about. Okay, those people are over there. Okay, I'm talking about just like I said, in case of emergency, right? Emergency communications, and to me, that's the driving point that's got to be driven home with examples of what and don't diminish that. Don't play into this whole bullshit game about hobby service. That's the selling point. That's what's going to get their ear. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Otherwise, it's go play your board game, kids. That's really what.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I think of emergency communication. I think emergency communication sucks. I'm just kidding.
Could be. It could be.
Yeah. No. I don't think so. But I think
as APRS.
I think that emergency communications is necessary.
APRS will save the world.
I just don't think it's going to justify Spectrum, and I see a lot of evidence for that. I think that, but let me ask you another question. What sort of service does the national parks provide?
Hold on. I'm just going to go back. And you don't think it provides a service, but even if it provides a little bit of credibility, it helps your position.
Okay.
Right? Like, even if it's not like it's the end of the world, but if you're like, it does have the potential offer service, you give a little bit of a check mark, credibility, right? So just in a least amount, right?
They provide land, picnic tables, pavilions, water, lake.
Yeah.
This
for
is
us to put our radios on.
This is 2023. We encourage hugging trees. The National
Right.
Park Society, that is the end all be all. Like they should be getting all the budget.
Right. So let me tell you a little bit what I think. Okay. MCOM is important. I just don't think that it's going to have ham radio survive long term, and I'm seeing things for that. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. We are never, ever going to match lobbying wits with Verizon or Charlie Ergen or AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever. These multi-billion-dollar corporations. We are never going to beat them back in terms of they're basically saying that how well we power society, we enable society to communicate, right? There is no way we could match that. I think that for emergency communications, what's going to happen eventually is that, well, not eventually, it's happening already, is that these agencies want to have their own capability. They don't want to rely on us. They don't ever want to rely on us. The type of emergency communications that ham radio does is more like secondary clean up things, health and welfare. That's the kind of things we excel at doing. But I don't think long term that that's going to get us thing. Rather, I like an approach like the national parks. I think that ham radio is a space for citizens, and by citizens I mean ordinary people who are not professional communicators, to get to enjoy wireless technology. And this will result in not only enjoyment for people and recreation, but also building their skills in terms of technology, right? Learning technology and also learning non-technology things like geography. As a DXer, I learned there's so many different islands and such like that. Learning about all different kinds of things, right? And kids are one thing. I believe the real opportunity lies in like the college age people and people who are just graduated from college, and people who may be in their 30s and 40s who could have all time to devote. But just like we see where we have the national parks set aside from commercial activity, we should have this small amount of spectrum. Could we have a small amount of spectrum set aside for citizens to enjoy? And that is amateur radio. And that is the value we should be selling. Not only that, we should update some of these regulations that keep us stuck in the 1950s. Things like the symbol rate and all of that stuff that keep the baud rate on HF, keep us stuck in the 1950s. We bring that up to speed. We enable a lot more innovation. And we enable people to experiment, launch satellites and such like that. They're doing things in Europe we dream about doing, Yeah. So yeah, that's my opinion. I don't think MCOM is going to save us. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people hang their hat on that. I think it's a complete dead end.
Well, I think I don't agree with I don't think MCOM's going to save anybody, but I think about you hear about a lot of local building projects that happen in communities, right? Where parks and green spaces are then deemed to go to zoning for commercial and industrial, and then the community petitions about how that space is beneficial to them, right? So there is a level of anytime you petition or you're trying to plead a case where you can put more to the story and you can frame it in a way where it's not just a narrow, but it's beneficial to a wide variety of people. And so my point is that it's not that I think that they're going to save the day, but I think that any smart business person or any organization who's trying to give credibility to their cause and to pad their cause, they'll take everything that is a possibility that the narrative has been, and they'll put it together as a picture and say, not only is here, but here's the different slivers that we can benefit by maintaining this. And so it's just about securing your case, right? It's not that I necessarily agree with that it's going to save the world, but I'm just saying that it can only benefit your petition and not make it worse. So
yeah, I mean, and the evidence I'm seeing in the FCC now is look at that 60-meter petition. One of their arguments they're making is that, well, can we allocate these frequencies only for emergencies or allocate it to Mars or some other emergency only service? And I think, the FCC is probably trying to kind of figure out, well, if hams are talking about emergency communications, give them frequencies for emergency. Every year they do the waiver for the symbol rate on HF for emergencies. Right. And then when hurricane season is over, they take it away. I don't want to
taken
go
away.
down
You're
that
absolutely
road.
right.
I want us to have access to frequencies all the time. And you mentioned green space. You know, green space is used to keep people healthy, get them outdoors, you know, and then, but, you know, they could be good gathering places if there's like a local disaster or some people could gather in the park for safety and all that stuff, you know? And yeah, but no, I
So
think it's,
are we going to start the petitioning group here for the Ham Radio Clubhouse?
you want to know something?
We're the new lobbyist committee for the Ham Radio Clubhouse.
You know, you want to know something? There have been people I know who've been wanting to start a ham radio political action committee for a long time. You know, there's an opportunity.
Yeah. So very cool. No, it's always a fun topic, especially when your name's not on the bill that you have to answer for it, right? It's always fun to scrutinize other people, but I like it. It is an organization that is asking for membership. So if the ARRL's listening, sorry if you don't like it, but we're allowed to have a nice conversation about it.
I don't think they mind. You know, they'll probably say things about me, but you guys, no, they ain't gonna mind. Yeah.
Whatever. We're all entitled to our opinions.
You know, no, it's funny because a lot of these things I've always had ideas about over the last. I think I'm going into 32 years now, 34 years now being a ham, and hang on. First and foremost, KMRD, thank you. We appreciate your $10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of that APRS, buddy.
Keep up building that APRS network, and you two can save the day.
You know what? For anybody that didn't like the discussion tonight, you can go watch a cat video, right?
Exactly. Go watch the cat. Go watch the cat. Thank you.
You know what's fun though? You know what's fun is that a lot of other people who might talk about it, most of the time will be party lines, right? Or like it won't be like an in-depth dive about like a debate, right? That's what I love about it, is we can debate and we still walk away friends. So it's good. So Kate MRD says he just spent his APRS money on Super Chat.
I spent my gambling winnings on a radio. I went to Vegas. My first fusion radio.
Was it blackjack? What did you play?
No, I did slots. I'm a coward. I only do slots.
What'd you do? Dollar slots, penny slots, 50?
I normally do like 25 cents, and I bet like all the lines. And
the lines.
I just heard the machine just go into full tilt mode, and I was like, okay, time to stop. So I walked out with about $400. So
everyone's looking at you too, thinking that you won $4 million. Security, follow her.
So I netted about $360 because I lost like 40 and I ended up with 400. So I was good. I ran to Gigaparts and bought that radio.
So let me tell you.
Is Gigaparts Las Vegas right next to the Luxor Hotel? They're like, this is the best place for our
best place to be. So one of the things that I hear a lot, again, when it comes to the frequencies, that some loudmouths, they're taking away from us again. Well, are you using the frequency? Do you even use the frequency? And if not, why not? And if you tell me that's not your preference, or I live in a certain, where I live, I can't do it. That's fine. So I get that. But there are other people who really don't have a valid answer or a valid response to say, get out there and use it. I feel very, very lucky and grateful that here in the United States, being a ham radio operator, there are so many bands that I can use, so many modes I can use on those bands. And yes, some of them are only more practical at nighttime versus daytime, and vice versa. But it just shows the opportunity and the flexibility that we have. This is a great hobby, guys. Sometimes I think we start splitting hairs, and it just gains momentum. I'm not saying don't be a watchdog, and I'm not saying don't be observant of where your money is going and who's doing the leading, who's doing the charge. Because I remember, again, when all else fails, when that whole I can't stand that program. I'll tell you that right now. I can't stand that program. When all else fails, there's amateur radio. There is not. I have been doing disaster work for over 38 years. Ham radio has never saved the world. Okay? Yes, maybe in a couple of situations it has. That's great, and I applaud it. Especially if that was my loved one, that'd be great. But let's not hang our hat on that. Okay,
Yeah.
let's start hanging our hat more on being good operators. Again, I was listening to 7.200 today. After 10 minutes, I realized why I should not be listening on 7.200 today, and I immediately, turned that VFO. It's just,
Well, we should all like, the goal of any municipality or police force or any emergency responder should be where they're never impeded or disabled from communicating, right? To have a really good emergency system in your community, they should be constantly improving and upgrading their systems so that they can always have dependency, where you can always rely on the fact they're going to be able to respond, right? So the idea that those services are utilizing anything less is while some people might be upset, it's fantastic, because the granny who fell and her life whatever labs sensor went off and they sent the emergency, like, she lived, right? People's lives depend on it, and the so we should celebrate that those emergency communications are being reinforced and secured and made better, and so that's a positive thing.
Yeah, no, totally.
If I may interject, my whole thing for MCOMs is not necessarily the Aries Races thing, but more as the grassroots in the community watch type thing. More of a prepper standpoint, and not the dipshit doomsday prepper. I mean the realistic, let's take care of our neighborhood thing. So that way we can communicate locally in our neighborhood, get our act together, so that we're not a strain on the emergency services, the FEMA and stuff, where they roll in and we go, hey, we got our neighborhood watch going. So-and-so is diabetic, they need medication, we got a generator. We give them the information that they need, and we kind of self-sustain in that way.
Right. And Scout, you know what that comes with? And Scout, tell me if you agree. That comes with years and years of partnership, honesty, and ethics.
Yes.
Because and if it doesn't happen, and listen, I have been there where you had the guy who's been there for 50 years, and it's his way or the highway. Listen, you're going to have all those everywhere. You can't get away from that. So then
people forget that prepper is short for preparation. It's not necessarily buying a bunch of gear and radios and guns and beams and whatever. It's networking with your neighbors, find out the situation, and people that you disagree with, and being prepared and working with each other.
Did you just say I don't get to buy a bunch of guns? Because I kind of already did.
Oh, no. I think that's not what it's all about. You can still buy all the guns you want. I mean, take it on me. I'm saying there's so many people that are more focused on the gear and not the mindset and the plan.
Yes.
The gear is important, no doubt about it, whether it's your radios or your guns or your whatever. But, you can spend a bunch of money on a solar generator and a propane diesel generator and all this cool gadgets. But if you don't know how to use it or how to best implement it, you're just buying toys is what you're doing.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with buying toys. Just know what to do with those toys at the right time and with the right people and everything.
The problem is the prepper. I realized, and we talked about this I think one time before. The word prepper has become like this, stereotype with something else. But I think just the whole idea behind being self-sufficient, we lost power for 4 days. I had power set up. I had heat. I had water. I got my neighbor set up. I got my sister set up. I got my brother's house set up. And so and that's 4 or 5 days of living where you don't have the system in place. Right. Yep. And so people are like, well, how do you prep? And it's just, sometimes it's very basic, but it's the ability to take care of yourself at the end of the day. It's not a bad thing. It's a wise thing, especially when you do go down to -40 in the winter time and people die from extreme cold.
Mindset is my prepper mindset is basically having the same mindset as my grandparents and great-grandparents. Yeah. Keep your pantry full, keep your fuel tanks full, keep your savings full. Know your equipment, know how to fix them, know your neighbors, know how to take care of them, know people who can take care of you. You know, that's what
fill
it
that
is.
bathtub. Fill that bathtub with water.
Fill that bathtub.
Always.
Which is still true today. And we all know, and what I have found on the topic of that, some people don't realize it's an individual inventory of what you have to do. Like for me here in my region, we've gone about 9-10 days without with the infrastructure being down. Okay, so that's electricity, and along with that now comes TV service. Cellular service has gotten better because the big guys know now of the importance. And I'm not talking about bringing in the cows, cellular on wheels toys. I'm talking about they have got to have people to get to these sites and make sure they have generators and the refueling and everything. So you got to plan for 3 to 5 days potentially. Again, for me, I went double. So now my house is I can go to, I feel comfortable going about anywhere from 12 to maybe 18 days of being self-sufficient. I got so whoever's asking, I have enough dude wipes, but box macaroni.
Ammo. Got rid of the shag carpet, so that's not a hazard.
We got rid of the shag carpet,
You see Matt's comment. Matt goes, my wife is a vet, so fixing the neighbors is a whole different conversation.
Yes. Matt, you're awesome. But do it logically, but don't think you're going to sit on ham radio when the power goes down, because you're going to be taking care of yourself and your family and your neighbors. Yes, that's afterwards. That may be in the evening later on, but we all know what has to get done off that punch list. And the first thing is not firing up that ham radio station, guys.
No.
Let's be realistic about Molson. When you had your ice storm, what was the first thing you did? Don't tell me you got on 20 meters and started saying,
I didn't turn my radio on once. So a couple cell towers did go down. They weren't on, and I know that the police had a couple dead zones because their repeater sites were down. But I still used my cell phone. It was a weak signal. I had to go outside. I wasn't able to get it inside. But I didn't even go on it once. Not at all. Right. Afterwards, I was like, I should have. But you know what? Any guy who would have needed help, I would have been reachable. So, they could have called me. So it was not my priority, and I didn't even take out my HT. So I guess you can call me a bad amateur radio operator. I didn't run to my Faraday cage with my Baofeng in it, So
up where I am, my cell service is kind of spotty, and I'm glad I have the radio as a backup. So that's my thing.
Yeah. See, I always I could throw one or two in the trunk of the car on a trip, just in case we break down somewhere that's not got no service.
Right. I always have my 705 with me.
Right. And if nothing else, you can work a POTA station. I mean, that's how I look at it. Right?
CQ POTA. CQ POTA.
Yeah. But listen, there is a time and a place for everything, but prioritize everything. And there is a very small percentage. And I'm not taking away from that small. That could be something huge for somebody, like what I said earlier. But amateur radio really is not going to save the world, okay? That was on Independence Day with Will Smith when the aliens came in and they were all using Morse code, okay? Hey guys, that was a movie. That's a movie, okay? And let's just leave it at that. That was for entertainment purposes only. I know a guy who claims he has a whole bunch of stuff in his Faraday cage now for about almost 2 years now, year and a half. Guess what? But he hasn't charged any of those batteries in there. So you know what that's going to really mean when he pulls out that Faraday cage? Come on. Yep. Exactly.
I had a friend who's like, I have a truck and I'm like, I'm going to sell it. He goes, no, you can't sell that truck. It doesn't have a computer in it. So like, if ever we got hit by like an EMP or something, you don't have to worry about it. You're still getting, I'm like, yeah, but what gas station am I going to fill up at? He's like,
Molson's transportation service.
I get questions.
Molson, you can be the bus driver. Molson, you can be the bus driver.
I get questions every day from people who want to say, how can I shield my portable power station, my solar generator from EMPs? I said, you know what? If you were to hit by a nuclear EMP and that blast was close enough to you, you ain't want to be alive,
Yeah.
No. Well, they got that 5-bedroom underground shelter apartment, so like maybe they will.
But, I still prep sensibly. I have enough things.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And I'm always.
You ask any.
There was a show, Prepper, where one of the big things was continuity, and you have to go beyond your hoarded supplies. You have to be able to so that's why you keep like seeds, and you practice agriculture, and you practice how to hunt too, because you're going to want some meat.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But it's all
I
about
got 4 cows. I got 3 cows going to slaughter in September, so I'm gonna have a full freezer.
Molson, we're all coming up to your house. You didn't know that already, did you? We're all coming up to your house, Molson.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not. If shit goes bad enough where you guys are coming up here, I'm not going to be here. So
be farther north. Yep.
I'm going further north.
Yep.
I'm going to ask your wife if she can go to a Dairy Queen for some blizzards. I'll just give her $30 and say, "Here, do it."
That's right. It's like, it's mostly where are you? I'm not telling you, but I'm buying the DQ. Okay, I'll be right there.
So, folks, overall, this is so. Once again, ham radio means, when you say that word, what is ham radio to you? To me, we're going to get all different answers. I understand the league has to balance it all out. I get all that. I guess we're just asking them to maybe take a real good hard look at what they're doing, how they're doing it. Again, look at some fresh ideas. Don't be afraid to move forward. That used to be one of my biggest arguments with some of the older people that I used to, when I was like, 10, 12 years old, I would say something like that. And they would look at me and just like what Scout said, this is how we've always done it. It works. But things have changed. Things will continue to change, whether some things we can be part of the change and other things we can't be part of it. We have to adapt to it. So again, for this fraternal organization, I guess I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm begging, but I'm asking, please take a real hard look at what you guys are doing and how you're doing it. And is it really meeting your memberships of about 150,000 or so? Are you really meeting all of our needs?
Well, yeah,
I have needs, sweetheart.
Well, and hold on one second. And I know you can't please all the people all the time, but I'm just talking about in general. General topic.
Yeah, I want to take a page from Elon Musk about growing membership. Cut the price, because he's doing price cuts, and the cars are flying off the lots now. I think they should do a dues decrease, and that'll encourage more membership, and then you could upsell to them, and then not only upsell, but more membership will give you more lobbying clout and power. I think if they really want to do away with the printed magazines, they could probably offer like a $10 discount for no QST, and probably raise it like $5 if you go on a printed magazine. So this way, a printed magazine will cost you $15 a year, right? Which is still a bargain. But the price cut will incentivize people to join.
My idea for the magazines is, I get that there's several different options, because this is a hobby of hobby and everything, but that's kind of the problem, is they got so many magazines that are specific. If I was in the ARRL, I would suggest consolidating to one printed magazine that was like the Reader's Digest of their different magazines that are all available online. You just have like the Drudge Report or the Cliff Notes of all your magazines in one magazine, and then say, hey, for more information on this, go to this online magazine.
How would this sound? Instead of a monthly magazine, what if we did something like that and only made it quarterly? You're not going to lose me. Yeah. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. You're not going to lose me. But put more information in there. Again, what I see in there is very, very limited. Although there have been like the old vintage stuff now that you see towards the end of the magazine. I like that. It's still way before my time, but I kind of like that. They did have a story running about 5 years. No, it has to be more than 5 years ago. They had a story running, and I really enjoyed this fictional story of a guy who was just a regular guy using ham radio, and then it stopped, and I really felt bad. I really felt bad. Now maybe that's not my fault for maybe not saying, "Hey, I would love to contribute and keep the story going," and maybe I was the only guy liking it, but it was just something cool to read. Besides, the latest thing on this spectrum analyzer, which I don't care about. You know what I mean? Um, but again, there's many aspects in this hobby. Again, just like you said, Scout. Scout, this is maybe we're going to make you part of the CEO team.
Oh, geez, I talk too much now. I've voluntold myself for it.
Yeah,
I'd be curious. So
yeah, I know.
I agree with Rio with like you divide you can upsell or have optional charges. I'd be curious that we can I think there's like a CB radio magazine or like be interested to see the analytics on that, like how many monthly subscribers do they have, what do they pay, and like if it's a viable business on its own, and kind of look at that and see, okay, how can we see other people's experiences and sort of model, get ideas for modeling something. Is it a viable option? And if you market it as a separate service or a magazine, can you actually increase your audience and your reach? There's a lot of different ways to look at this, and it's not necessarily just you might have a bigger you might be able to have a bigger reach into other types of hobbies, like depending on the content you have. So I think that's a great idea that Ree has, and I support that too, because even at that, you could just, I don't know, like a lot of other services. Even when we do like contesting, people are like, "We'll send you EQSL for free, and if you want a card version, give us $3." Right? Like, so if your printing is your expense, maybe people subscribe to that, like Ria said, who want to have that printed copy. Because if you only have a small percentage of the people who are like insistent they want the printed copy, but you're spending all this money to satisfy those smaller volumes, then it's kind of like a bad business decision. So there's other ways to assess this that can be wisely, managing money. So
does anybody know about when they were talking about the quality of the paper? I don't really. That to me has never really been.
That was a lot of noise. Like that's a lot of that to me. That was just like you're trying to secure your position to like reinforce that you have to increase your fees. Like if that's your justification, that this one-time outlier of a situation where you had to use a different source of paper, like if that's your song you're putting to make me justify increasing my fees, like that's a poor, like if that's your best illustration, come on.
Because we're not talking about toilet paper here, guys. We're not talking about double ply versus sandpaper. I care more about the content. I care more about the content, and I don't even care if it's on newspaper print. I don't care.
Listen,
well, am I the anomaly?
It is the last dude right size outhouse, not the Sears catalog. He's good to go.
Listen, that to me, that whole story was like a bunch of just verbal diarrhea. It's like, come on, please roll my eyes. Like, you're not Louis Vuitton here, and you have to make sure you have the same fabric from the last place, and it's your product. It's like it's an outlier. At one time, if you're using like 90% of people can't tell the difference in the paper. Like, come on, like I'm not saying use shit paper, but like the only option is not always like anybody who's in the business and you buy materials and outsource materials. That there's more options than just going for a more expensive solution, right? So like. That's their song and dance to justify membership fees. It's a poor excuse it's a poor excuse.
Yeah. I do think and there are many fundraising within the ARRL. I mean, they rely heavily on donations and bequeath and basically people leaving their estate and stuff like that. They have a big program for that. So I don't think that's ever going away. The desire for dues increase is baffling because I looked at the stats and every time there was a dues increase, the membership dropped. So I don't know why they want to do this now.
That's mind-boggling that it's such a huge thing, people leaving their estate to the ARRL. Like listen, people, if you're watching tonight, one-time watcher, watch every week. If you're in the position where you have an estate and you don't know where to send it to, and it's like ARRL or like the Ham Radio Clubhouse, we will happily take it and distribute it to people. Like,
Oh, we'll didn't physically have a clubhouse. That'd be kind of a cool idea.
You would be surprised though. Like, you know, I met a lot of people who didn't have kids, they didn't have anybody else.
I'll be your kid.
And they donated they donated part to the ARRL. They donated some. I know some people who are going to be giving a lot of money to the ARRL when they die. And I can't say who they are.
No.
They're good friends of mine, but you know, it's staggering. I mean, you know, they have all this money and then, wow, you know.
To me, it's crazy that's your like. To me, I just don't understand it. I guess ARRL is not a big part of my life, so I can't speak to it. So.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're going to start going around the horn here. It's been a great show. For those who didn't think we were going to talk radio tonight, we got you. So Scout, thank you very much for coming on board tonight.
Yeah, well, you're one shame short, so I had to come in and fill in for my.
Somebody has to fill that. That seat and everything. But the shack looks good, though.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on the opposite end that you normally see me. I'm getting a studio set up on both ends of the shack here, so yep.
Post a link in the chat for guys who don't know or forget about your YouTube channel, or else your Twitter. That they can follow you and see what your
you can follow me on Twitter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off talking good about me. No. Please continue.
I was just going to say, especially now that the snow is melting up there in Wisconsin, and I'm sure you're
it turns out we have ground. That's kind of cool. Yep. I'm getting out and stretching my legs a little more. As if you don't know me, my name's Shane. I have a little YouTube channel called Scout75. My focus is on portable radio, Parks on the Air, Summits on the Air, MCOMs a little bit. I usually premiere a video. Oh, geez, about 2 years now I've been premiering a video before your guys' because Tuesday nights work out for my schedule where it's my free night off. And the last, I'd say a month or so, Mike Kinderconnect and I have started doing a little playlist because he's starting to get very active on the ham radio YouTube's doing a lot of portable ham radio stuff as well. And now we're starting to get more people in on a little playlist. We talked, I think we talked to Molson and Shane about this. This might be news to you, Joe, Brett, and Izzle, but we started an official Ham Radio Clubhouse playlist on Tuesdays. So anyone that wants to join up with us, just hit us up in the Discord. And
smaller channels only, right? Like 2.0 and Mike and them, they're not allowed.
No, and you don't charge dues, right? You don't charge dues.
No,
you don't charge dues or a magazine.
No.
Do I get a magazine subscription with that? Okay.
No. It's Shane put out an announcement, and I commented on it saying, we're trying to get the smaller channels a little voice up here, get a little exposure, and of course Jason had to give me a little rib and says, "Oh, you're ignoring our bigger channels" or something like that. But obviously everybody's invited, but we're just trying to get more people hit up here for the Ham Radio Clubhouse night. It's always fun. Thanks, Joe Brett. You just put my Twitter. I'm the only, besides the YouTube channel, the only social media I have left right now is my Scout75 Twitter page. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram or any of that crap anymore. I just got tired of watching my friends scream at each other over politics. So if you want to follow me, I'm posting stuff there. Again, all portable stuff. It's winter's behind me now, so I'm gonna be doing a lot more backpacking trips and that kind of stuff. So you see some stuff out in the field and
excellent,
so on and so forth.
Rhea, you're always welcome. Thank you. Your point of view is always you show us things that sometimes we don't see. So thank you. So we appreciate you taking the time. Excellent comments.
Well, thank you for bringing me on. Like I said, the ARRL and I have had a history, and I still support them. I just, I have reservations about some of the politics. That's all. But I do think they're vital. The dues increase, I'm kind of on the fence. That said, I think, they need to kind of figure out where they are. But anyway, what other stuff I'm doing? Meet me at Dayton Hamvention. I'll be there with ARDC. I'm also going to be at WRMI Legends. I do my weekly show on WRMI Legends 5050 kilohertz on shortwave. I also do it as a podcast, and it's on the YouTube channel. I'm doing some YouTube videos. I'm doing some for EcoFlow. Well, I'm doing some off EcoFlow products that we're doing, but I'm putting a ham radio twist on one of them. One of them is the lawnmower. You're gonna enjoy that one. It's a technical treat. And
real quickly, you mentioned you're on shortwave. What's the frequency on shortwave times for that?
Yeah, so it's Friday at 5 p.m. Central on 5050.
50/50.
WRMI.
Excellent. And where's that based out of?
Yeah, that's in Florida.
And how many watts? Do you know?
100,000.
So Fridays at what time?
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's Fridays at 5 Central.
So that means at 100,000 watts, we should all pretty much hear you pretty much just about everywhere in the United States, I would think.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, for us up north, you want to tune into 5950 because that beams up north. Okay?
Okay. There you go, folks.
That said, if you can't hear it on the shortwave, that's okay. You can always listen live on WRMIlegends.com. Right?
There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
See?
So, and
That's
if you
the
missed
backup
that, I put the show up on the YouTube channel every Sunday or Monday. So.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Excellent.
All right.
So, well, thanks again. You're always welcome here. You know that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Joe Brett. Next on
Hello.
the list. Hello.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad you showed up.
So, yeah, I don't know. I had some videos at some point. I don't do a lot. Ask Mike. And I will not be at Hamvention. I just can't afford the extra trips to big stuff like that right now. I got to get these youngins grown and out of the house and through with college. But we will be at Huntsville. So far, the plan is we're going to roll in Wednesday and stay all the way to Monday. So depends on how costs go. I may cut a day off for that, but
excellent.
Other than that, we'll be hanging out.
Excellent. All right then. And guys, don't forget Joe. Joe's on Twitter, and Joe's on YouTube, and Joe's got T-shirts, and Joe's got mugs, and Joe's got I'm sure you can probably get a barbecue accessories. You probably do it an apron that says "I'm the chef" with a picture of Joe on there. So.
I do think I will say, I don't do a lot, but I'm thinking and Tio, I know he's not watching anymore, but it's a great idea. Just I'm going to start making videos after the Nuggets, whatever the Nuggets was about. I'll just start making a abbreviated show about it.
Yeah. You have Tio and Jim spend 2.5 hours trying to figure it out, and you just take the cliff notes and send it up in about 10 minutes.
Exactly. I'm just taking notes. Put it out there.
Right.
8-minute show.
Good idea.
Molson, thank you for coming on board tonight. No, Molson, we didn't have a blizzard from you tonight. What the heck? Barbecue? We didn't have no wings?
I'm trying to watch my figure,
Well, yeah, what you got on, Molson? Your mind?
I got...
What you got on your mind? Jesus.
Not much. Jesus is on my mind. No, I have... so I'm planning to go to Dayton. Ooh. So I'm very last minute in these things. I haven't booked my hotel. I'm not too concerned about that. I just got to make sure that work frees up, and I'll be hitting the road with my wife probably Wednesday. Plan to arrive Thursday, and hope to have a good time in Dayton. But I don't commit. There's a lot of time between now and then. So, but that's pretty much all I got going on. Not much more than that.
Excellent. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. We're gonna.
What about you?
Pull the plug here. I want to thank everybody real quickly. Let's see. I moved everything around in the garage. So now I got the Go box ready that sits in the garage, so I can hang out with a cigar and just either listen, chase some POTA, chase some DX, and when the opportunity presents, just grab everything and throw it in the back of the truck and start hitting some more POTA parks. Temperatures are supposed to be getting a little bit warmer starting next week. That's encouraging for me. So balancing everything between what the kids. This is really the next 6 weeks with the kids, with graduation coming up and a whole bunch of end of year school stuff. It's going to get a little tight, but hey, that's part of being a parent, and I don't mind because they are the number one thing in my life, and that's what's the most important thing right now. So, but it's always fun, and we'll be here next Tuesday. And guys, check out all the great shows coming up throughout this week on YouTube from our friends. And we'll say 7-3. So everybody wave goodbye, and whoever's ready, start hitting that going out music. 7-3 is all.